There are certain lines that once we have crossed them, there's no going back. The point of no return. The line of demarcation. Hi, this is Barry Phillips, a 2-minute tour, day 4 of Tavo when you come in. And let's go now to Deuteronomy chapter number 27. It says in verse number 1, "And Moshe with the elders of Israel commanded the people, saying, Guard all the commands which I am commanding you today. And it shall be, on the day when you pass over the Jordan to the land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you, you shall set up for yourselves large stones and plaster them with plaster. And write on them all the words of this Torah, which when you have passed over, so that you go into the land which Yahweh your Elohim has given you, a land flowing with milk and honey, as Yahweh Elohim of your fathers has spoken to you." And again in verse 4, "And it shall be when you have passed over the Jordan, that on Mount Ebal you set up these stones which I command you today, and you shall plaster them with plaster, and build a slaughter place to Yahweh your Elohim. They are a slaughter place of stones. Do not use an iron tool on them." And then he says that in verse 6 and 7 that you are to offer up ascending offerings and peace offerings and worship. The line of demarcation. What is that? The point of no return for us. What is that? There are various differing doctrines that have separated the manifold number of denominations over the years, systems of belief. I was raised in a Pentecostal tradition, and one of the doctrines was that if one were to turn from their righteous living and re-enter again into a sinful lifestyle, we said they had backslid. And at that point, they were no longer in a born-again system or situation, that they were turned. There are those who say, well, once you are born again, you can never lose that, no matter what you do or how you live. So we can use the theological terminologies, whether you're Calvinistic or Arminian or whatever. The question remains, can you lose your salvation or not? Well, in the tradition that I was raised in, one could. And I remember the occasions where one would re-enter into their previous lifestyle for whatever reason, however it happened. And they would become broken and repentant, and they would come back and be restored. Now, were they reborn again, or were they renewed or redeemed again? I don't know what terminologies for the experience are most appropriate. Ezekiel does say that those that have lived righteously, if they turn from righteousness and live unrighteously, their righteousness is not remembered, but only their current unrighteousness, and vice versa. If one has lived an unrighteous lifestyle and they come to Yah and start living a righteous lifestyle, their unrighteousness is no longer remembered against them, only their righteous living. So it seems to be how you are living at the present. There is a point of no return. There should be a point of no return where we have made up our mind and agree with David as he said, "My heart is fixed, O Yah. My heart is fixed." That is, that we become resolute, that we become focused and determined day after day to walk uprightly and to do what is right. Now, that's not to say that we have our moments where we fail to make the right choices and we are more fleshly than spiritual. These things happen. May Yah help us. But here, Yah says there is a point of no return. And that is when you have passed over. Once you as a people cross the Jordan River, everything is different from that moment. And I want you to put up a monument to speak to this significant event. You are to put up a pile of stones, and you are to plaster or whitewash them, and you are to write this Torah on those stones. Now, is that the 10 words? Is that the book of Devarim or Deuteronomy? Is it the entirety of the Torah? I don't know. I'll leave that for more esteemed scholars than myself to figure out. But they wrote the Torah in whatever capacity it was written on those stones. The word that is used there, abar, is the root word for passing over. It is abar, where we get the word ivri. If we go back to Genesis, Bereshit chapter 14, Lot and his family are taken captive, and they are caught up in this local civil war that is going on. And a messenger comes to Avram, the Ivri, the Hebrew, and informs him as to what has happened to his nephew Lot. The word Ivri, one who has gone beyond or crossed over. So this is the mark of demarcation. This is the point of no return, that we take on this Hebrew identity and we cross over from where we have been into a process and a journey of where we are going. Our current life, our current momentary situation is not our future. What is happening in the world around us right now, we know it's not stagnant. It's not static. It's going to change. Life is about the process of change in and of itself. But there is societal change. There is worldwide change that is impending upon us. We've known this. We've known that we are in some portion of the last days, whatever point that might be, and that's up for debate. We know there are certain events that we should be looking for, but those steps have no determination on our journey. They're just mile markers along the way. Our journey has already been determined. We've chosen Messiah. We have become redeemed and born again into his family, as we've been talking this week, and we are now a part of his kingdom that is coming. And we have already, in effect, crossed over the Jordan from one side to the other. And we've taken on the identity of those that have passed over. What is that point of reference for us then? It's the same as it was for them. It is the Torah. This monument of the Torah, these words of the Torah, and we look at them and we study them in a cycle year after year, or triennial cycle for some of you that are going on in a more in-depth and slower pace. But we look back at this book and we see the words on the page. And we read these words and we realize, I just can't go back to what was. Not throwing a stone at anyone, it remains where we were. Not offending anyone, not throwing bombs at them, not ridiculing, not smirking at the mention of where they are, because that's where we came from. Yah said, don't loathe a Mitzrite because you used to live among him. So we're not to loathe or castigate or throw off on where it was that we were. It's just that we crossed over. And understanding that process, we look to the Torah and we realize there's no going back. I'm not there anymore. I've moved on, and I'm growing, and I'm continuing the journey, and I'm offering to him my ascensions offering. I'm a Ola. I'm rising up. I'm elevating myself before him, and I'm offering to him my Shelamim, Zevakim offerings, my peace offerings, my worship and thanksgiving for where you have brought me from, and expectations of where you're taking me to. Continue your journey and don't look back. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Till then, shalom.